Industries are not operating fully or even at all during this time, but an important sector that does need to be operational is civil society and task teams that deal with human trafficking, a practice that is rife in Southern Africa as well as the rest of the world. The University of South Africa, as Marcel says, those teams' work has come to a grinding halt at this time. Let's find out what impact this is having. Marcel, a very good morning to you. Thanks so much for your time. And I suppose, yes, we've been talking since the start of this lockdown about what happens in cases of abuse, what happens with child abuse, those who are forced to live with their abusers in this time, and also looking at what's happening online and online behavior. What have been your observations as we continue in this situation?
Yeah, good morning, Yuvika. I think what is well known is that the crimes of abuse, sexual offences, trafficking, etc., it flourishes in darkness. And I think what we are currently seeing in South Africa is really in many ways the ideal circumstances within which online exploitation happens. We know pre-COVID that just all these structural inequalities and vulnerable communities in South Africa are already vulnerable, and I think this just creates another layer of vulnerability. And at this stage, we don't have any hard facts and hard data coming from South Africa. I really do believe that those data will start dribbling in, as time goes by. But, within the corridor talk, I work with a lot of police officials, some insights on investigations and brothel raids, etc. There's definitely a concern that much of what we are seeing traditionally, we're already seeing in our court cases, but a lot of this is moving online.
And we would imagine at a time like this, Marcel, that in a civil society, those NGOs that deal with helping survivors of abuse, the task teams as well, would have their hands full and would need to be more active than ever before under the conditions you just described. How do we explain then that those have come to a grinding halt, and why?
So let's just put that in context. I think NGOs are doing a fabulous job, civil society active on the ground, the activists walking the streets, reaching out to these vulnerable communities. The concern that we have is that the official government-led task teams has basically come to a grinding halt. So what we have, and this has been raised on multiple online meetings that we are having in the civil society space, and we are really trying to, breathe new life into that, because we cannot afford, to succumb to this appearance of that things are quieting down when all of us know that this is not the case. And even though the hard data is not there, we know things are happening. We are getting reports. But that is unfortunately the case. These task teams, intergovernmental task teams, need to be up and running. We all are using Skype, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. There's no reason why this cannot continue. And that's unfortunately an increasing concern being expressed, not just with people in the sexual offences and trafficking space, but people doing advocacy out there, and that's a problem.
With the restrictions on movement that have come about as a result of lockdown, Marcel, throughout the world, one would imagine that this would have impacted human trafficking. We wouldn't see, that happening as much. But what have you found on that front, or is it still carrying on undercover, like you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Over the past year and a half, 2 years, Yuvika, we've increasingly seen how the trade is moving online. I'm just going to use a more recent example, the State versus Alesso case, where we had a successful conviction of a mother and a daughter who trafficked a young child from Lesotho to South Africa. Within a couple of months, there was more than 6,000 logins from sex buyers across the world. And I think more than ever, if I was a person involved in this kind of work, perpetrating these crimes, nothing more lucrative than the online environment. So again, I do not know of any reports that as currently where arrest has been effective, but the overwhelming majority of sex and child trafficking cases that I've dealt with over the years and continue to deal with, there's an online component. So there's both a tactile and a virtual component to the sex trade. And we are seeing there's a demand for children, without a shadow of a doubt, there's a demand for that. So It is. I think we are going to be seeing these reports increasingly coming in as the months go by.
That is scary and sickening at the same time, Marcel. In terms of support, and when we were going to the lockdown, we had government say that there will be support systems out there for those who have to live with their abusers, children who have to live with adults as well. Have we seen that? Have we seen it being effective? Have we seen those survivors or victims actually using those support systems? Has it worked?
Yeah. So what we are seeing very effectively is obviously our two of the key numbers that we often use is the gender-based violence call center, but also increasingly the human trafficking hotline. And I know the human trafficking hotline, they have received countless calls, not all trafficking, because people need help and people call whatever number is available and whoever answers the phone. So, we're getting calls from suicide ideation to different forms of abuse, etc. I know the human trafficking hotline has received calls, and over the last 2 weeks, we had to touch base with some of our government partners to say, what's happening? We need interventions. So the hotlines are receiving not just human trafficking calls, but a variety of calls related to abuse, risk factors, and concerns from community members.
So much going on behind closed doors and online. Thank you so much, Marcel van der Walt, for that insight.